Hi, I'm Greg Bartlett, the developer of the Helix Light Controller. This video is a quick overview of the Helix system and how it can help you create a spectacular light show. These are the topics I will cover in this video. So what is the Helix? Simply put, the Helix is a do-it-yourself hardware and software system that allows you to create a professional-looking synchronized light show at a fraction of the cost of the commercial systems. This is a picture of the Helix main board, the heart of the Helix system. I'll explain more about this board shortly, but first I'd like to talk about the history of the Helix system. I started developing my first light controller in 2007, called the Prop 128V1. At that time I was following the same basic mold of most other controllers of having a PC play the MP3 and provide the intensity values to the light controller. However, I did want this controller to be wireless. In 2008, I looked at the capacity I still had in the microprocessor and determined I could make my controller be standalone. I entered this version, the Prop 128V2, into the 2008 Parallax Propeller Design Competition, and it won honorable mention. After 2008, I introduced this version to the do-it-yourself Christmas community. They provided several suggestions for improvements, as well as a name change to the Helix. Most felt like Prop 128 sounded too much like a political proposition. I redesigned the controller based on the suggestions and added the capability to expand it into a Helix network. This is the first version, the Helix V1, that I made available to the public. From there, I further refined the design and added additional capabilities in 2010. This is the Helix V2. There were several more things I wanted to do with the design, so I took 2011 and the beginning of 2012 to flesh out these new changes. In February 2012, I released the most current version, the Helix V3. One of my main design principles is to never obsolete anything unless absolutely necessary. So far, this hasn't been necessary. A Helix V1 mainboard will work in a wireless Helix network controlled by a Helix V3 mainboard without any problems at all. Now I'll discuss the capabilities of this newest version. First off, the Helix is a standalone system. You need a PC to create your sequences and convert them into the Helix format. From there, these files are loaded onto a microSD card. The Helix mainboard uses the information on the microSD card to run your display. My controllers have always had the capability to communicate wirelessly, but with the new version I add wired capability. This gives you a cheaper option if you don't need the flexibility of the wireless system. The Helix provides 256 levels of dimming on each channel. This provides smooth ramps and fades. It uses a distributed architecture. In essence, this allows you to place as few as 4 channels and as many as 32 channels precisely where you need them. It also allows you to easily have a very large area display. A fully built-out Helix network can support over 32,000 channels. There are 8 input triggers. Each of these triggers can be used to start a show. This is useful if you need an interactive display or the ability to start a show on cue with an external event. The Helix can control other DIY and commercial light controllers. If you already have some controllers, it is likely you can continue using them within a Helix network and not lose any of your investment. In summary, the Helix is one of the most advanced light controllers available. That being said, it does have some limitations. The Helix can only play songs that are encoded in the MP3 format. It works best when they are encoded at 128 kilobits per second. However, it will play higher bitrate MP3s. If you plan to use the new wired option, you will be limited to a total of 32 Helix mainboards. This is still a fairly large network and can support up to 4,096 channels using Helix daughter boards. The Zigbee radios used in the wireless option need line of sight. They operate in the 2.4 GHz band, which is easily absorbed by buildings, houses, cars, trees, etc. Most of the do-it-yourself community uses a freeware application called Vixen to sequence their songs. The Helix system uses this application also. Vixen is upgrading to version 3. This new version is a radical departure from earlier versions. At this time, the Helix will only work with Vixen version 2.x until the new version becomes more stable and I have time to figure out how to interface with it. Even with these limitations, it is still one of the most advanced light controllers available. I'll now provide a little more details about the Helix main board. The main board is 4.5 inches by 7 inches. The Helix is powered by the Parallax propeller chip. It has a built-in power supply. The firmware, config files, schedules, sequences, MP3s, etc. are loaded on a micro SD card. This allows easy upgrade of the firmware. This is the MP3 player. This is the first component that is only needed on the Helix network controller. The real-time clock is the second component that is only needed on the Helix network controller. Each main board has 4 channel banks. This is where the Helix daughter boards or other controllers interface with the Helix main board. For the wireless option, the Helix uses a Zigbee Series 1 radio. For the wired option, the Helix uses a standard RS-485 port. At the top of the board are the 8 input triggers. These require a normally open dry contact switch. These are the status LEDs. They give you insight into what is going on inside. This is a channel test switch. When you press this switch, the Helix will turn all of the channels on to 50% intensity. This makes it easy to test the connectivity of the lights. This is the micro radio data system port. It is implemented in hardware, but not in firmware at this time. Now I will explain a little about the Helix daughter boards. There are 2 versions of the daughter boards. This one is the Helix standard daughter board. It is used in conjunction with the small 4-channel SSR boards like the SSR Neon G2 LED. Each standard daughter board can control up to 8 of these small SSR boards. These SSR boards are good when your display elements are physically dispersed. I use these to control the lights around my windows and in my bushes. Each channel of the SSR Neon can control up to 2 amps. The standard daughter board connects to one of the channel banks on the Helix main board via standard Cat5 patch cord and this port. You also use a Cat5 patch cord to connect the small SSRs to the standard daughter boards via these ports and the port on the SSR Neon. This is the Helix 32-channel SSR daughter board. Essentially, this is the Helix standard daughter board with the SSRs directly on the board. This board can control up to a total of 60 amps using 4 15-amp AC circuits. It is good when you have a lot of display elements in a small area. I use these boards to control the lights on my megatree. It is also good for controlling leaping arches. The SSR daughter board connects to one of the channel banks on the Helix main board via standard Cat5 patch cord. Now that I've introduced all of the different boards, I will show you how they are interconnected. To do this, I'll switch from pictures of the boards to diagrams. This block represents a Helix network controller. So people in cars can hear the display, most people use a small FM transmitter. You connect the Helix network controller to your PC running the Helix Network Supervisor application via either a wireless Zigbee link or a wired RS-485 link. This interconnect allows you to set the time on the board as well as do basic troubleshooting and display setup. The Helix daughter boards are connected to the channel bank outputs on the main board. In this instance, I'm showing 3 Helix 32-channel SSR daughter boards and 1 Helix standard daughter board with 8 4-channel SSR boards. However, you can have any combination of SSR daughter boards and standard daughter boards. One of the most powerful capabilities of the Helix is its ability to control other controllers. If you already have invested in another DIY controller like the Renard, or most of the commercial controllers, you can upgrade your system with the new capabilities provided by the Helix without losing your investment. You can substitute one or more Helix daughter boards for these other controllers. The Helix channel bank will drive up to 286 channels of Renards or up to 512 channels of DMX512A boards. You will need to build a custom Cat5 patch cord to interface the Helix to these other controllers, but the instructions are included in the assembly manual. If you need more channels than the Helix network controller can provide, then you can add up to a total of 250 additional Helix main boards configured as Helix network nodes. Each of these Helix network nodes can control another 128 channels. This gives you the ability to control over 32,000 channels using the Helix daughter boards. If you use Renards or DMX controllers, then this number goes up substantially. The 250 additional boards is only capable using the Zigbee wireless option. The limitations of the RS-485 protocol limit the number of wired nodes to 31. This still gives you over 4,000 channels. The Helix is constantly evolving, so now I would like to talk about some of the updates I plan to make to the Helix. In early 2013, I plan to release my own MP3 player. Up to this point, I've used MP3 players provided by SparkFun. However, I've had to change my design or update firmware but 3 times because SparkFun changed or obsoleted the board I was using. This new MP3 player will be under my configuration control. By mid-2013, I plan to add a driver for the LED Trix display boards. I also plan to add a driver that would allow Helix to control a micro RDS board to add radio data system announcements. I'm also planning on adding a new board to the Helix lineup that would act as a Helix network node, but its output would be DMX over Ethernet. This is the protocol used by many of the RGB pixel string controllers. In the long term, probably 2014, I plan to add the capability to control mechanical relays and servos. I haven't decided if this capability will be provided by daughter boards or a network node form factor. However, I want these capabilities so I can control animatronics with a Helix network. At this time, I only provide the bare printed circuit boards for the Helix system. In this table you can see the prices for the printed circuit boards as well as the approximate parts cost for you to assemble these boards. The Helix is just a hobby for me. As such, I sell these boards basically at my cost, so these prices listed don't include shipping or PayPal fees. If you are interested in getting a Helix system, you have a couple of options. 2 to 3 times per year, I hold a group buy on the doityourselfchristmas.com forum. This allows me to place a larger order for the printed circuit boards, which results in a lower per board cost for everyone. You can participate in these group buys by becoming a supporting member of the forum. Alternatively, you can contact me directly via email at orders@helixlightcontroller.com and see if I have any of the boards available from the last group buy. Be sure to let me know how many of each board you would like, as well as your zip code or country if you are outside the USA, and I'll let you know if I have them in stock, as well as a quote to include all of the PayPal and shipping fees. In summary, I'd like to point out a few things I'd like for you to take away from this video. The Helix is the first do-it-yourself standalone controller. It has a distributed architecture, which allows you to put the channels precisely where you need them. It allows you a fairly high channel count, with over 32,000 channels available. It's compatible with other controllers, so that it can reuse and save on your investment. It's very feature-rich, with the standalone capability, the triggers, and other capabilities that it provides. It's fairly affordable, and it is one of the most advanced light controllers available. If you still have any questions, you can check out the website at helixlightcontroller.com. Another good resource is the forums on doityourselfchristmas.com, or you can send an email to me at orders@helixlightcontroller.com. Thank you for watching.